Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Planning Commission meeting. My name is Tamara Blake Wallace. I'm the Planning Commission Administrator. This meeting will be conducted as a hybrid meeting, allowing for both virtual and in-person participation. Serving as moderator tonight is Lisa Shepard, who will go over our rules and etiquette for tonight's meeting. Lisa?
Good evening. I'm Lisa Shepard. I'm an administrative aide with Planning and Zoning, and I will be acting as the moderator this evening. For those, the meeting is being recorded, both video and audio, for record-keeping purposes. For those attending virtually or on their phone, please keep yourself muted to ensure no interruptions to the evening. If asked to speak and you are attending on your phone, you can mute or unmute yourself by using the phone's designated mute button or by pressing *6. If you're on a computer, you can mute and unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone mute button on the toolbar in the bottom of your screen. You can also mute and unmute using keyboard shortcuts. Windows, press Alt-A, and on a Mac, press Command-Shift-A. When questions or comments are requested of the public, those attending in person will be asked to speak first, and those attending virtually will speak after. If you are attending via phone and would like to ask a question or make a comment, when asked, please use the raise hand function, *9, and you will be called upon in turn to identify yourself for the record and speak. If you are attending virtually and would like to ask a question or make a comment, please go to the chat icon on your Zoom page and type your comment into that section. Finally, please say your name every time you speak for the benefit of those calling in who cannot see you.
Thank you, Lisa. I will now turn the meeting over to our chair to begin to call our meeting to order.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Calvert County Planning Commission's March 15th, 2023 regular meeting. My name is Maria Bueller, and as chair of this board, I would first like to take a moment and welcome our newest member to the Planning Commission, former Calvert County Commissioner Chris Gadway. Sir, if you'd like to take a moment, introduce yourself.
Good evening, my name is Chris Gadway. Thank you, Ms. Bueller.
You're welcome. Thank you. Now, we will begin this meeting with item 1 on the proposed agenda. Roll call. Vice Chair Kernan.
Here.
Commissioner Gadway.
Here.
Commissioner Freeland.
Here.
Commissioner Toohey.
Here.
Commissioner Dr. Holler.
Here.
Commissioner Williams.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. If you could all please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next on the agenda, we will have action on the proposed agenda.
Commissioners, any changes? I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the agenda as proposed.
I have a motion by Commissioner Toohey,
Second.
second by Commissioner Kernan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, next on the agenda is action on proposed summary of actions. Item 4A, February 15th, 2023 regular meeting.
Commissioners, any changes? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to accept.
I have a motion by Commissioner Gadway, a second by Commissioner Freeland. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, next on the agenda is recognitions of persons attending the meeting. From Planning and Zoning, we have Mary Beth Cook, Director. Virtually, we have Judy Makel, Deputy Director of Zoning. We also have Carolyn Sunderland, Deputy Director of Planning, attending virtually. We have Christine Fenimore, Principal Planner. Christopher Sperling, Historic Preservation Planner. We have Jay Cousineau, Planner 2. Becky Parkinson, Planning Commission Recording Clerk. From Economic Development tonight, we have Julie Obert, Director. I'm sorry, she is not here. Had her on my list. For Finance and Budget, we have Veronica Atkinson, Capital Projects Analyst. From the Marine Museum, we have Jeff Murray, Director. From Park and Recreation, we have Shannon Nazal, Director. From Public Works, we have J.R. Cosgrove, Acting Director. We have James Ritter, Deputy Director of Enterprise Fund Operations. We have Heather Maggart, Division Chief of Solid Waste, and Emily Matthews, Project Engineer 2. From Community Resources, we have Jennifer Moreland, Director, and Sandy Wobbleton, Division Chief of Transportation. And serving as our legal counsel tonight is John Mattingly. Next on the agenda is item 6, major subdivisions for final review and action. We have none tonight. That would bring us to item 7 on the agenda. We have CSPR 142896, Dunkirk Business Center, Lot 3. Christine?
Thank you, Tamara. Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
I do have a PowerPoint. That they hopefully are putting up in the back. All right. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Christine Fenimore, Principal Planner with the Department of Planning and Zoning. I'll be presenting the conceptual site plan for the project CSPR 142894, Dunkirk Business Center, Lot 3.
Christine, is it 4 or 6? I'm sorry. 896 or 894?
Should be 6.
896. I apologize. As you can see here, Lot 3 is located in the Dunkirk Business Center, which is unestablished industrial park off Skinner's Turn Road. The zoning is I-1 light industrial. There we go. This is an exhibit of the conceptual site plan. The proposed site development includes 9750 square foot, one-story building for flex space as a use. The associated site improvements such as parking, loading areas, stormwater management. The entrance to the site is proposed off of Keith Lane. The lot is double fronted along both Keith Lane and Skinner's Turn Road, but the way the subdivision was recorded, the access must be off of Keith Lane versus Skinner's Turn. There was a side setback reduction requested from 50 foot to 25 foot for the easternmost side setback and for the building, and that was approved by the Planning Commission Administrator. The owner of Lot 3, which is our subject lot, also owns the adjacent Lot 4, which is to the west, and you can see the proposed site layout connects the two with existing paved area on Lot 4. The site is proposed to be served by private septic and an on-site well. There are no impacts to existing environmental features or associated buffers. Forest conservation was previously addressed at the time of subdivision. The site will need to meet requirements such as landscaping, lighting, appearance code, as well as stormwater. And here you see the building elevations. Again, it's a 9,750 square foot building, one story, less than 40 feet in height. And I'll go back to this slide just so we can see the site again. I breezed through the staff report. I hit the high points. Certainly let me know if you have any questions. The applicant's engineer is also present if you have questions that are appropriate for him to answer. I'll entertain any questions at this time.
I do have a couple.
Yes, sir.
On page 2 of the staff report, on the 0 foot setback, because this owner owns both lots 3 and 4, legally I see that that 0 foot setback can be put in place. But if approved, Are those two lots now joined together at the proverbial hip? Would it be something that they could not sell individually later?
They are not consolidated lots, if that was maybe what your question included. They are still standalone Lot 3 and Lot 4, but because the ownership is the same at this time, the setback can be 0, according to that condition, yes.
But if the owner were to get rid of one of the lots, that 0 setback would still be in place. At that point, would that have to go away and go back to the previous requirement?
It would remain in place.
It would remain in place.
Okay. That's all I got on that.
Alrighty.
On the staff report. I
Any
do-
other
I
questions?
do have a question on the review application.
Yes,
And this is
sir.
the first time I've seen this, so some of this may have already been addressed in the past. I apologize for having to bring it back up. But there's about a 400 square foot difference on page 2 of the application between the total property acreage and the disturbed acreage. The disturbed acreage shows about 400 square feet more. Would they be disturbing property that's not theirs?
I believe they,
Chris, could you speak into the mic, and you also, Mr. Gatway?
Okay.
Thank you.
me, Chris, sorry. So I believe some of that limit of disturbance includes area on Lot 4 to connect the paved area. If you look at the exhibit on the screen, the darker shade of gray is the paving for the proposed site plan, and it does bleed over onto Lot 4, if you will, to connect to the existing paving that is on Lot 4, which would explain why the limit of disturbance is larger than the lot area.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioners, any other questions?
So the staff recommendations include 6 conditions. Staff recommends approval of CSPR 142896, Dunkirk Business Center Lot 3, flex space, subject to those conditions. And certainly the next steps could include approval with staff recommended conditions, approval with any modification of those, a deferral or a denial.
I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, in the matter of CSPR 142896, I make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Does your motion include the conditions?
Oh, including the conditions 1 through 6. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Tui, seconded by Commissioner Freeland. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Planning Commission members, if you all could speak into your mics, we're having a hard time hearing tonight. Thank you.
Except for John Tui.
Okay, that moves us to item 8 on the agenda, major subdivision applications for preliminary review and action, and we do not have any tonight. Following that would be item 9, long-range planning, and we have no items for review. We move on to item 10, items for discussion and/or action. We have item 10A, Vale House Historic District Designation, HD 2023-01.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Give me Chris.
I'm here tonight, Chris Sperling, Planning and Zoning. I'm here tonight in regards to the application to create the Vale House Historic District. Background. Overlay districts are created to impose special regulations in addition to those of the underlying primary zoning for a given property or area. A historic district is one of 4 types of overlay districts in Calvert County. The other are agricultural preservation districts, districts allowing the use of transferable development rights, and critical area districts. Calvert County Historic Districts, following the procedure for any zoning change, require a joint public hearing. Discussion. Mr. Donald P. McDougall applied for historic district designation for the property to be known as the Vale House at 14280 South Solomons Island Road, Solomons, Maryland 20688. The Historic District Commission unanimously voted to recommend the designation of the Vale House Historic District at their meeting on March 8, 2023. The HDC's decision was based upon finding the application met the criteria of Chapter 57 of the County Code Historic Districts. Recommendation. Staff recommends the Planning Commission discuss the proposed Historic District application and direct staff to schedule a joint public hearing with the Board of County Commissioners. I can take any questions.
Thank you.
What are the benefits of putting your property in a historic?
So, the benefits for the owner are that owners qualify for the historic preservation tax credit. That is 25% credit against property tax, 25% of pre-approved work that is done to either maintain or enhance the historic nature of the property. The Historic District Commission would review that to make sure it falls within our design guidelines and is appropriate within the Secretary of Interior's standards for rehabilitation. And then that tax credit, if it's not exhausted at the first year, can roll over for up to 5 years. On top of that, communities have seen economic benefits from historic preservation. Just if you look at certain areas, it can increase property values. It increases sense of community.
When you said that the property tax would expire, what do you mean by that?
According to state law, it has to, the credit has to expire after a certain amount of time if it hasn't been exhausted. And I've asked legal, and they've given me their opinion for exactly the duration of that. But that's guided by the state. We don't have any control over that.
You said it was a 25% tax reduction?
Yes, sir. It's 25% of the amount of monies that were pre-approved, for pre-approved work that were done for the property, not of the property tax.
Okay, so the pre-approved work, they spend $10,000, they get a $2,500 tax credit. Okay, so it's not a blanket 25% off their property taxes from now until whenever?
Exactly, sir.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. And what are the drawbacks? What does that tie the owner into? You touched on the benefits to the community, benefits to the owner. What are the drawbacks to that?
So by applying and by placing one's property in historic preservation, they are required to maintain the historic look and feel of the exterior of the property. If they have any alterations to the property that are going to be visible from the outside, then those have to receive a historic area work permit. And if they are visible and they are improvements or they go towards the maintenance of the house, foundation work, for example, then that can qualify for the tax credit. So just if they were to put in a new building and, for instance, install a shed, that is allowable, provided they follow the guidelines, but that wouldn't qualify for the tax credit because it's not enhancing or maintaining the historic look and nature.
Is that a one-shot deal that they can do that in the beginning, or they can do that over and over again over the lifetime of living in the home?
The tax credit, sir?
The tax credit.
That is any project that is approved. Right now, we have one of our historic districts has about 5 or 6 applications in. They've worked through several of them already for well over $100,000 worth of work. It's a way that private ownership allows for historic preservation. And the historic district designation does carry on. It is attached to the property. So when somebody purchases the property, those same restrictions will be there. There is a mechanism for removing the historic district designation, but it's the same effectively as being designated.
Thank you.
Sir.
And a bunch of the surveys and explanations of the property, it lists the property as a late 19th century 2-story framed Queen Anne house. In another location, the box is checked off that it was built between 1800 and 1899, but the date of the construction is 1902. So it's only 121 years old. It's old, but it doesn't, it's not a 19th century property, it's a 20th century. Well, how does that work?
Basically, properties can be considered or generally able to be considered historic at 50-year age mark. That is the initial cutoff, but then it has to meet the designation criteria that are established in Chapter 57 of the county code. It's architectural if it has a
Okay.
distinctive architectural style or if it's associated with a person event significant to the history of Calvert County or the state or nationwide. In this case, the discrepancy is most likely because that first recordation was done, Maryland Inventory of Historic Properties. They look at the style and they place it into their estimate of when it would be constructed. The follow-on later work probably actually looked at actual construction date, and so that's what made that date inconsistent with what's on other documentation, that somebody actually looked into the actual construction.
Does the would in any way the inconsistencies affect anything in the historic value or in
No,
the
sir.
application process?
No, sir. And on this property, we actually have a very good history. A gentleman from, now I can't remember which division he's in, but General Services is a descendant of the individual who had that house built, and as a child would talk about how his grandfather would go around and give him tours. So on top of being very stylistically, most people notice it when they go on to Solomon's Island. It's one of those. On top of that, having a personal story linked into the community is I think, is a special consideration.
Great, thank you.
Sir?
Any other questions, discussion, commissioners? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to direct staff to schedule a joint public hearing with the Board of County Commissioners.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Freeland, seconded by Commissioner Gadway. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Next on the agenda is item 10B, proposed fiscal year 2024 through fiscal year 2029 capital improvement plan. And I will start that off by reading the memo. Titled Planning Commission Review of the Proposed FY24 through FY29 Capital Improvement Plan. Background, Title 3, Section 3-205 of the Land Use Article of the Maryland Annotated Code specifies that certain types of projects may not be authorized or constructed in the local jurisdiction or in a geographic section of the local jurisdiction until the Planning Commission has approved the location, character, and extent of the development as consistent with the plan, such as the comprehensive plan or the town center master plan. Types of projects include a publicly or privately owned street, square, park, or other public way, ground, or open space, a public building or structure, or public utility. And again, that's, you have the land use article attached to your packet. Under discussion, Calvert County staff from the Departments of Planning and Zoning and Finance and Budget worked together to review the projects proposed for the Calvert County FY24-29 Capital Improvement Plan, better known as the CIP. Staff identified projects that fit the types of identified in the state code. The attached chart shows those projects and includes 5 columns: project title with a brief description, total project cost including prior years funding, project duration, consistency with the adopted 2019 Calvert County Comprehensive Plan, which was amended in December 2022, and Town Center Master Plans. Projects previously approved by the Planning Commission, which were unchanged, and those not subject to state code, such as maintenance projects or unchanged reoccurring upgrades, were not included in the chart. FY24 through 29, the county's capital projects analyst is tracking over 250 individual CIP projects. Of those projects, 6 will require Planning Commission action. There are additional projects which the Planning Commission took action on previously. The preparation and adoption of the CIP is a public process. Finance and Budget staff held a 6-year CIP CIP work sessions with the county commissioners, and those dates were January 10th, 24th, 31st, February 7th, 14th, and 28th, and March 7th of 2023. A public hearing on the staff recommended budget is due to be held on March 21st, 2023. If there are any additions or changes to the project subject to Planning Commission's review, staff will present them back to the Planning Commission on the April 19th agenda. A public hearing on the County Commissioner's proposed budget is proposed to be on May 16th, 2023. On June 6, 2023, the County Commissioners are scheduled to take action on the proposed budget. The FY 2024 budget year begins its cycle on July 1st of 2023. And I'll hand that over to Veronica to take you through the CIP projects.
Good evening. So we have 6 capital projects that were identified by the Planning Commission for review. Our first project was is the Prince Frederick Fuel Station. It's to identify a location and build a central fuel station for transit vehicles. This project cost is for the installation of a 12,000 gallon above ground tank. And for FY '24, we have budgeted $600,000. Do we have any questions on that project? We have project leads here too.
Yes, please. I thought we just went to fuel cards last year for everybody
This is
in order to
for
avoid this.
the buses.
Okay,
This is under Jennifer and Sandra's.
gotcha.
Some of it will be funded by grant, some of it will be funded by the county.
Do you want me to expand on that a bit?
Sure,
Okay.
please.
So the buses are the second highest user,
Mhm.
but they have very strict adherence to federal guidelines to stay consistent with scheduling, and they can't deviate from that. So they can't go to a regular pump like most drivers, and they don't have the time to return back to the facility or, in mid-schedule either. So there's all sorts of things that make the WEX cards just not an ideal option for them.
That makes sense, thanks.
So we're no longer using a central fueling facility?
There is JR can elaborate on that since that's his.
Good evening, Commissioners. Derek Cosgrove, Acting Director of Public Works. So we're currently still utilizing this central facility down Stafford Road. There is plans to remove that at some point in the future. Community Resources got a grant just for the transportation buses to install a 12,000 gallon above ground tank at their facility down in Industrial Park off of Schooner Lane. So over the next year or so, we'll be working with Community Resources to work out the construction side and the layout and the proper permits to move forward with facility there where they park the buses every evening.
So the site's already been identified?
That's the site we're looking at. I think we found a way to make it work for everybody down there now. So that's where we're looking at currently.
It makes sense. I mean, all the buses come back to that site, right?
Correct. Yep, that's where they're stored. They leave there in the morning, come back in the evening.
And what's the monthly fuel usage for the transit buses?
I'd have to look it up. I'm sure we can track it, but I don't know it off the top of my
I
head.
mean, where I'm going, 12,000 gallons seems like a very big above ground tank when everybody was using a 20,000 gallon tank at the Stafford Road Fueling Facility for gasoline.
Correct.
And then, are the buses diesel or gasoline?
I think they're mostly gas.
Gasoline.
Correct. So Commissioner Gadway mentioned that the county looked towards a fuel card for everybody, so which is the WEX card. So we're looking at converting that over to all county vehicles, which gives us the ability to, we're currently working on the policy now, hasn't been completely adopted. We did a trial run with Public Works to see how it worked and paid off as far as reducing gallons used because we're always traveling back to Prince Frederick. It seemed benefit the county in the general, so that's why we're moving forward with working on the policy to move forward to make it countywide. But as Jennifer said, it's just not ideal for the bus services. So that's why we're looking at possibly reducing the size or even removing the station at Stafford Road in the future.
Would you still keep your county-run fuel facility, even if you went to the cards?
we're looking at possibly keeping it, maybe reduction in size, maybe a slightly different location. Maybe we can expand to the system we would put in for the transit system down at Schooner Lane. But it's beneficial in one aspect, but not in the other, because if we got, you know, sheriff's department or highway staff or in the north end of the county, and that's where they're stationed, or that, you know, it's difficult for them to come back to Prince Frederick in the middle of their route or their scheduled workday. It's just a lot of windshield time that's unnecessary. That's why we're looking at the WEX card.
You know, one thing to keep in mind, in a major disaster, a lot of the independent fuel stations don't have the capacity to
Correct.
generate power, so.
Yeah, so the WEX card we are looking at, I think, has 32 different stations throughout Calvert that can be used. That is something we've looked into, and some of them do have power, you know, backup power.
Of the $600,000, how much of that is state money?
540,000. We've got 60 in PAYGO.
Thank you.
Our next project is Public Transportation Transfer Station. This is to design, develop, and construct a public transportation transfer station facility for patrons to safely and effectively interconnect to various bus routes throughout the system in one designated area. The transfer station will provide shelter and a bench areas for passengers and amenities for the drivers. The current Calvert County Transportation Development Plan includes this project. The project will be 100% state grant funded.
Which is still tax money, just coming from the state.
Yes, Commissioner.
And this would be near the Armory Road facility? Or where is this gonna be at?
Veronica, I can answer that. Jennifer Moreland, Director of Community Resources again. So this is just doing the feasibility. And we'll be working with a consultant and with Department of Public Works to identify potential locations. But we're not at a stage yet where a site is located. So the funding for this is state funding from MDOT, MTA to just do feasibility.
2.7 million for a feasibility study?
No, in FY '24.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep, we received 105,000 for the feasibility.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Jennifer, you've been down this road before. Is there some guarantee the state won't pull the funds out from under you again?
I am not a psychic. So, yes, I mean, there's a possibility that could happen.
Well, are you able to use any of the feasibility that was done previously?
Well, some of it we'll use to inform the feasibility, but there's new locations, there's new land available. So yes, you gave an example would be, I believe we had the Prince Frederick Park and Ride in the last one. That will probably be up for consideration again in this too. So we'll have those points already laid out, but they'll look at other options that we hadn't considered before.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next project is the Armory Site Development. This project includes demoing the existing structure, design and construct an open-air pavilion to be used for farmers markets and community events. That is a grant as well, and that's for FY '24, which would be $2 million. We have are getting approval for a grant for $60,000 that we do have now. Do you have any questions?
Got nothing.
Thank you. Our next project is the Calvert Marine Museum land acquisition. As part of the approved Marine Museum Master Plan, specific properties have been identified for the future growth of the institution. The funds requested are for the potential acquisition of the most critical property. It is anticipated that the state and local open space funds, along with private donations, will be used for this acquisition. The project is currently a placeholder in the CIP. Staff recognizes that the property going on the market could occur at any time. And Jeff Murray's here if you have any questions. Our next project is Cove Point Park improvements. The updated master plan for Cove Point Park was adopted in August of 2020. Implementation of that master plan will involve improvements based on community needs for the park. These improvements include a parking area for a dog park, stormwater mitigation and drainage, playground, an additional entrance location, upgraded fields and facilities, and added amenities as laid out in the BOCC adopted master plan. The current basketball courts, tennis courts, and playground are past their life cycle and are high priority for replacement. Grants from Program Open Space and FY29 will be Phase 1 and Phase 2B of the adopted master plan. So for FY24, we're looking at $700,000. It's under grants.
Continue, go ahead.
You have the old one.
I had something different.
You have the old one.
I have the old one.
Yep. That was updated.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
No.
Our next project is the Recycling Materials Storage Processing Building. This project consists of a fabric tarp building for recycling materials storage and processing. Materials will be placed inside the covered facility and reloaded into containers, trailers, or boxes to be shipped for recycling. A lower loading dock will allow for a safe loading process. Scope of this work consists of grading, stormwater management, paving, a fabric tarp building with concrete floors and walls.
And the price tag for that is?
The price tag for FY24 is $100,000. For FY25, we have $1,150,000. And that would be debt funding. You know, the enterprise, that falls under the enterprise fund, which is supported financially by the users of the facility or the utilities.
How long do fabric tarp buildings last?
James Rivera, Deputy Director of Enterprise Funds. The structures we've been looking at have a 25-year warranty for the fabric roof structure.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm done. If you don't have any more questions.
Any further discussion, commissioners? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Can I ask a question first?
Yes, sir.
Of our legal counsel. Can we adopt all of these together, or do we have to do them individually, Mr. Mattingly?
You can do them all together.
Thank
I
you.
would just ask you, though, to make sure that in any motion you put a consistency
Got you.
finding, please.
And the motion is to find it consistent with the master plan, is that correct?
The comprehensive plan.
Comprehensive plan.
And the town center master plans, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay. In that case, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we find the 6 projects consistent with the master plan and the town center plans and move them forward for approval.
The comprehensive
And
plan.
the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
Second that.
I have a motion by Commissioner Tui, seconded by Commissioner Kernan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. Next on the agenda is items of interest, item 11. This information is for informational purposes only, and no action is required. If we have tonight on there the site plan and subdivision application list. So if there is any discussion or questions, we'll entertain those now.
We can still ask questions at a later date or contact the POC on them, though?
Yes, these are projects that are in the pipe works that you will probably see coming before you in the near future.
Because there's 135 residences and close to 100,000 about 100,000 square feet of retail, so.
They will be coming before you at a later date.
And there will
They're
be
in
questions.
preliminary stages now.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll have my questions ready.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is public comment. At this time, we will open the meeting up for public comment. According to Calvert County Ordinance Number 5121, the Planning Commission Chair will first request comments from those attending in person and then those attending virtually or by telephone. By telephone, you should call in advance, toll free at 888-475-4499. Meeting ID is 858-5579-4151. And if it asks for a passcode, please hit the pound sign. Whether in person or attending virtually, we are limited to 2 minutes if you're an individual and 5 minutes if you are designated to represent a group or organization. Is there anyone that would like to speak, Mr. Estes?
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to address you. I'm Leonard Zuzza, live in Solomons, and I'm speaking individually. I'm calling your attention to the fact that you are a planning commission without a plan. A management expert said you can't manage what you don't measure, and you have very unreliable data for measuring the impact of your growth decisions on Calvert facilities. The 2014 comprehensive plan listed 31,000 residences in the county in 2015. In 2019, planners increased that to 34,767. Subsequent commissions approved 2,358 new residences. This allows you to approve 475 new permits before you exceed the 2040 target of 37,000 residences. You are now considering 4 major new developments with 682 residences that will get you close to or exceed that 2040 target. Your approval of any 3 of these projects will get you close to the 2040 target by 2024. Reaching 37,600 residences so soon will raise questions as to how much more growth county facilities can accommodate. Number 1, how many new residences could you approve annually? 5, 50, 150, 500. Second, county budgeteers will have no metric for formulating future CIPs because they won't know what new water, sewer, road, or school facilities will be needed for growth you will approve. Given this absence of reliable metrics, I suggest that you, number 1, set a new 2040 housing target that identifies how many new residences you can approve in the next 17 years without exceeding the capacity of facilities. Number 2, direct planning and zoning staff to include APFO metrics in documents you use to process permit applications for new developments so that everyone can see the potential impact of proposed growth on facilities. These steps are necessary to enable you to manage future growth so that it protects our health, wealth, safety, and welfare. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Mr. Souza, could we get a hard copy of that, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone virtually who would like to speak? Okay, we do not have any hands raised, so that would end our public comment session for tonight. Next on the agenda is item 13, which is adjournment. Chairman?
Commissioners?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Tui, seconded by Commissioner Kernan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you all for attending tonight's meeting, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
For CIP, like.
Recording
six
stopped.
CIP.
Mr. Zuzza.
That's the fastest CIP I've ever
Mr.
had.
Zuzza. Mr. Zuzza.